Right now, President Obama is in the air en route to Miami, where he's headlining fundraisers tonight to bring in more money to Democratic candidates. President Obama is also doing his part in hitting the stump to talk to voters. But some vulnerable Democrats aren't embracing the president's star power at all. Chuck Todd, NBC News political director and chief White House correspondent, is here with us. Chuck, why not? Why wouldn't they want the president stumping for them?
Well, look, it really depends on what's going on in an individual state. So let's take what we're seeing today in Kentucky and West Virginia, where you've got Bill Clinton stumping both for the Democratic nominees for Senate in both of those races. And on one hand, they want a star Democrat to come help motivate the base. On the other hand, the base that, say, the president's base is a little bit different than, say, base Democratic voters in West Virginia and Kentucky. So it really is different strokes for different candidates. So take yesterday, President being in Philadelphia, firing up African Americans. Last week you saw him in Madison, firing up young Americans. That's the strength of his base. When you look at the drop-off voters that we've done studies with, it is young voters and African Americans that have very high approval ratings for President Obama. Take the decision to invite Bill Clinton to West Virginia and Kentucky. Both Manchin in West Virginia and Conway in Kentucky need the base to turn out, but the base in both of those states is sort of a blue-collar manufacturing base that Bill Clinton always has resonated with over the last 20 years.
Chuck, I mean, based on what you're saying here, based on some of the polls, based on the quotes I saw in Kentucky, is this slightly a racial thing here where we want President Clinton in some of the whiter areas? Keeping it real. And
well, here's why I actually, I know that there's some folks that want to look at it that way, but I would say go back to 1994. Guess what? Bill Clinton wasn't invited to Kentucky congressional district. Bill Clinton wasn't invited to places in these same rural areas that Democrats were representing at the time and were seen as the most vulnerable. Basically, what you have is these rural districts are the ones that have been the most upset at Washington, frankly, now for going on 3 straight cycles. And so Bill Clinton now being distant from it is seen as a positive. But when he was sitting president, he had the same problems, the same bad job approval ratings as President Obama does in these same areas. So I guess I would just push back on this notion that it's all racial. You could look at it that way, that, okay, in both the instances of Kentucky and West Virginia, there isn't a significant African American vote that can be motivated to come out, and that is something that President Obama can be helpful with in this case. And in those 2 states, there isn't a big enough chunk of the electorate in those 2 states that fits that demographic. But I again, go back to 1994, and guess what? Bill Clinton was persona non grata in Kentucky.
So, Chuck, real quick then, is it just really a function of how much the president is being attacked? Back when Bill Clinton was being attacked by the conservative media, Rush Limbaugh, et cetera, he was unpopular. Now we've kind of forgotten about that. Now Fox News, et cetera, is on the warpath against President Obama, and all of a sudden he's the bad guy. So in like 10 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, President Obama, remember when he was around and he was great.
Well, you know what? In fact, we only have to go back 2 years. Remember during the Democratic primaries, when you had all of these Democratic lawmakers in red states coming out for Obama over Clinton. Why? Because there was this fear, the Clinton name, they remembered what happened in 94, and there was this memory of that. So, look, that's what a lot of this is function of, is sort of who is the boogeyman or boogie woman at the time. And in this case, look, the guy who's sitting in the Oval Office, that's who is held accountable in a midterm election. We saw it with Bush in 06, and we're seeing it right now with Obama in 10.
All right, thank you. NBC's political director, Chuck Todd.